The actors and actresses of Life Below Zero spent years testing the boundaries of human endurance in the face of extreme cold and solitude. In the event that I terrify every single caribou, I will also frighten the bear. Even though they are bear tracks, the bear in question is really large. He doesn't have the gait of a child. Here we have King Mama Jamma alone. The gap between speculation and fact has never been wider than it is now, however, as reports of death have emerged. Is anyone still in the wild? Who have we lost? What's transpired behind the scenes, if anything? Living at or below freezing point was obviously unique before anything else was called into question. Perhaps by reflecting on that legacy we might begin to comprehend its enduring impact on the present. Life Below Zero's lasting impact. In Alaska, the natural environment leaves no space for error. No matter who you are, the land will demand respect from the weather. Viewers have been transported to that harsh and distant planet since 2013 thanks to Life Below Zero. Totally disconnected from the comforts of modern life. Neither a wilderness game show nor a staged adventure could be more different. You won't see any eliminations, cash prizes, or famous faces. It's live, action-packed footage. The show chronicles the lives of ordinary Alaskans who have chosen to live in remote areas, not because they seek adventure or attention, but because it is the fate that has befallen them. There is actual risk, and there is also actual cold. In each episode, you are thrust into the harsh, unforgiving wilderness of Alaska. Miles upon miles of frozen rivers, unpredictable storms rip across the landscape, it snows continuously. Additionally, the expanse of the sky is nearly stifling in its breadth. As the blizzard looms, you see the kind of brutality that most people will never have to face. Chipping away at ice for water or trying to get meals on the snowmobile while hatching a roof. There is no rescue team and no opportunity for a do-over. In this place, you're expected to mend things as they break. If the power goes off, you either figure it out or go into a deep freeze. However, the survival element isn't the only thing that sets Life Below Zero apart. There's no need to exaggerate how powerful it is. It's subtle. Even a bear encounter can't prepare you for the drama of a broken snowshoe. If it prevents you from returning home, for the feeble there may be no sustenance if the hunter fails to fire. That is the exact type of stress that Life Below Zero brilliantly depicts. No dramatic flourishes or climaxes are necessary to hold your attention. Rather, it's the subtle suspense where a slip-up could lead to major problems that makes you keep an eye on things. Acknowledgement should also go to the film crew. No light comes through the clouds, and batteries die in minutes. Shooting in such conditions is no picnic. Despite lugging equipment across snowfields and dodging wild animals, they capture these stunning images of life in harsh settings. Such dedication is unusual. For me, that's the key to believing in the show. It spares no effort or pretense in depicting the battle. Its impact is profound because it depicts reality in all its brutality. Living Below Zero is essentially about learning to rely on oneself. The story revolves around individuals embracing their current circumstances and finding ways to make things work, even when they shouldn't. The majority of us will never truly be self-sufficient. Yet we can all relate to the urge to survive, the satisfaction of accomplishing one's own work, and the serenity that comes from conquering a world that most would rather avoid when we see someone construct everything by hand, including traps, fishing gear, and buildings. A lot of people have been reflecting about our lifestyle, our true needs, and the need of respecting nature rather than attempting to control it since the show came out. Many viewers began to wonder about age-old practices such as how to make tools or preserve food. Freedom isn't a passing fad, in fact it's more potent than ever. As time went on, Life Below Zero expanded beyond its documentary roots. It evolved into a demonstration of the reality of life, when easy ways are not an option. When 6 feet of snow cover the ground, there is no food delivery app to help you find what you need. what you want. It impacts you differently when you see someone facing that kind of life without complaining, backing down, or making excuses. It had nothing to do with shock value. Reality and the inner fortitude required to face it head on were the themes. That is what Life Below Zero has left behind. It got all the drama it needed from the outdoors. While it's one thing to stay alive in the Alaskan wilderness, questions become more difficult to put to rest after the cameras stop running and rumors begin to circulate. Real danger exists. Nevertheless, how does one deal with death? Repetition is not an option in Alaska. Out in the middle of nowhere, it only takes one misstep, a faulty item of equipment, or a poor decision to end up dead. The actors and actresses from Life Below Zero willingly accepted that reality. They carry heavy loads across frozen rivers, as we have witnessed. Despite the wind and cold, we have seen them skin caribou and fix broken snowmobiles when assistance is hours or days away. From a distance, it's easy to appreciate. Close inspection, though, reveals that any one of those scenes could quickly go awry. If you get lost out here, you might never be found. Anyone could get hypothermia from a single slip on the ice. A grizzly bear that won't back down will meet you head on if you even misstep while hunting. Nearby hospitals are non-existent. Do not expect any ambulances to be prepared to respond. In fact, the risks are substantial and pervasive. At this point, inquiries start. Viewers of Life Below Zero are left to ponder the question: has anyone ever failed to return? What happens when the wild presses back stronger when you live so far out and are continually straining against the edge? The rumours have grown in frequency and intensity over the years as fans have begun to ask similar concerns. Claims of the death of a cast member began to surface in various online forums, Reddit discussions and TikTok videos, while some were evasive and others insulted. It looked like the worst had happened thanks to the screenshots, dramatic descriptions and breaking news headlines. Everyone started talking at once, but nobody could verify any of the claims. And there is the issue with rumours. As soon as they begin, they spread rapidly, particularly in a distant and perhaps hazardous environments. Rumours about survivalists surviving in some of the world's worst environments seem to spread quickly and easily. Life Below Zero has, to be honest, had its share of near misses. Injuries, accidents and seemingly hopeless situations have all occurred. Audiences have witnessed machinery breaking down during blizzards. They have witnessed characters limping back to camp or recounting the moment they were on the brink of death. So it's not completely out of the question when rumours start circulating that someone has died. The idea seems plausible, the actors becoming silent on social media, or an individual venturing into the wilderness by themselves at the end of an episode also adds to the weight of the stillness. Individuals complete the gaps. Was anything happening behind the scenes? Are they all right? In what ways have they failed to make a post? For the new season, why didn't they return? Fans are naturally invested. In the span of a day, they've seen these individuals endure hardships that the rest of us couldn't fathom. Bad news in particular may be devastating. These people aren't playing parts. Worse yet, they are actual people leading genuine, hard lives, which just serves to fuel the myths. But do they actually hold water? Is it true that Alaska now has its very own? That is, unless it's just another wild online hoax. When seeing the harsh reality they lived in, we may move on to discussing the survivors and what transpired when the cameras stopped. The unflinching woman, Sue Aikens. Viewers of Life Below Zero will never forget Sue Aikens. If there is one character, Sue brought her genuine life to the cameras. She was strong, vocal and incredibly independent. Sue didn't spend much time in the Windy City after being born there on July 1, 1963. She had her first experiences with nature at a young age. The family relocated to Alaska, and by the time Sue was 12 years old, she had already begun to master subsistence farming. That first encounter established the standard clash on a small field, forced onto substances grown. and gone from there. She bravely faced the difficult tasks at hand. There was a lean from her. Now we're in adulthood, running her home in one of the most remote spots in the country, Kavik River Camp, a former fuel stop turned survival base. Sue became a legend in life below zero. Riding solo, she traversed the course some 197 miles above the Arctic Circle. Interesting thing is that this area did not have any neighbours, shops or paved roads, but this was her sweet spot. Viewers of Life Below Zero saw Sue deal with harsh weather, tote supplies and confront dangers that the typical person would freak out over. Her candour is what makes Sue so interesting. She says it like it is. She opens up about the impact on her life and the toll it takes. We've witnessed Sue's tears and heard her curse as she watches her roof ripped up, yet she persists. The Kavik camp is her business, and she uses it for more than just survival. Bookings, as well as the management of food and fuel supplies for guests, pilots, researchers and daring tourists, are under her purview. Despite the fact that the show catapulted her to stardom, she never abused her position. She was more reclusive than ever before, if anything. Sue has had a tough life away from the camera. One of her spouses passed away from brain cancer and the other from much more tragic causes. When she's not filming, Sue sees her 2 grown children and grandkids. She often mentions Alaska as the location where she feels the most authentic in interviews. How one thinks clarifies a lot. Alaska isn't something that will stop Sue. She considers it her home. As the camera moves around her icy environment, it becomes clear that it's more than just landscape. This is her way of life, and she has no intention of changing it, regardless of how terrible it may become. A toll has been taken physically by this way of life. She has opened out about her struggles with discomfort and aging in the cold in previous seasons. However, she has no intention of giving up. Her no-nonsense demeanour is what truly sets Sue apart. She mutters, "I can't do it," after attempting to lift a hefty plywood panel onto her roof in one episode. However, she persists. She snaps out of her annoyance after halving the board and completing the task. Because of her boundless vitality, she became an essential part of life below ground. There was no show without Sue. She made it through Alaska and beyond. She bent it so that it fit her, and by doing so she provided an up-close look at an extraordinary, authentic and indelible way of life for the audience. You would think that nothing could stand in Sue Aiken's way after all she has been through, but recently people have been asking questions that no one can seem to pin down. Does anyone know whether Sue Aikens is still off the grid? On the other hand, has she been swallowed whole by the wilderness? Keep going, you're not just another number. The harsh realities of living in the Alaskan tundra don't seem to affect Sue Aikens, who is one of those exceptional people. Dealt with adversity in 2007 that would have devastated lesser mortals. A grizzly bear attacked her while she was alone at Kavik River Camp, which was hundreds of miles from civilization. Allow me to explain. At the Kavik River, close to her tent, Sue saw a male grizzly bear burying caribou bones. The region used as a landing pad for helicopters, so these remains were an eyesore. Accordingly, she was aware that she needed to relocate them. She had to put down her rifle one day while she was pumping water from the river because she needed both hands to do so. At that moment, the bear, who had been lurking on the riverbank, attacked. After grabbing her, it pulled her into the tundra and started what Sue describes as an alpha push. Instead of hunting for food, a bear will use an alpha push to show who's boss. Sue's life was likely spared because of her lightning-fast thinking. The bear was confused since she pretended to be meek instead of striking back right away. These were her words to describe it. "If you don't give it to me willingly, I'm going to kick your butt," the bear was essentially saying. She reduced the likelihood that the bear would intensify its attack by giving the impression that she was withdrawing her force. Bear biting her head persisted though, and roughly dragged her about after dislocating both of her hips. Severe bite marks on her cranium, dislocated hips and open wounds characterized the injuries. Incredibly, Sue mustered the strength to mend her own wounds and, in spite of the agony and shock, locate and kill the bear that had attacked her. Nevertheless, her hardship was far from ended. No one came for her after she had been stranded for 10 days. Unfortunately, no one could reach her despite her attempts to contact local troopers and others. Over the course of those 10 days, she battled the elements and her injuries in the frigid Alaskan tundra. Upon the arrival of rescuers, she was transported to a hospital via airlift, where medical professionals adjusted her hips and attended to her injuries. The bite mark from the bear's teeth remains palpable, according to Sue, even after all these years. You would think someone would want to get out of the wilderness after an attack like that. Not Sue, though. There is no one as tough as her. She promptly returned to her secluded camp and resides there to this day, overseeing operations at the Kavok River camp and graciously receiving guests. But then, in the year 2023, reports started to spread online stating that Sue had died. What drives those rumours is something we'll never know for sure. However, they are wholly untrue. Tooth I-25 confirms that Sue is alive and well. Despite the many death rumours that have circulated about her, she shows her followers that she is still active, powerful and self-reliant by posting updates about her life on social media on a regular basis. The untamed resolve that won her fans on Life Below Zero remains with her even at 62 years of age. The story of Sue is one of fiery independence, but the hailstones reveal an alternate Alaskan reality. What happens when a different picture of life below zero is painted by strong family ties and unwavering determination? Life outside the Arctic Circle, the hailstone that Chip and Agnes gathered. Diseases in a harsh and isolated environment where winter sun hardly peeks over the horizon and cold stings deeper than anywhere else, Chip and Agnes Hailstone have forged a resilient and firmly established life. Their narrative centres on family, culture and the preservation of traditions rather than merely survival. They have lived close to Norvik along the Kobuk River north of the Arctic Circle for generations. Well, let's begin with Chip. Edward Feeve Hailstone relocated to Alaska in 1988 when he was 19 years old from Kalispell, Montana. A once-in-a-lifetime adventure has become an unbreakable bond. The immense, untamed splendour of Alaska ensnared him and he could not untangle himself. He crossed paths with Agnes, a woman who had grown up among the Inupiaq and was therefore very familiar with the culture and history of the area. They forged a family and a way of life that combines traditional practices with the modern challenges of life in the Arctic. Kutan, Tinmiak, Iritok, Caroline and Mary are the 7 children they had together. Agnes has 2 boys, John and Douglas, from a previous marriage. Chip and Agnes think it's more than just sensible to educate their kids these survival skills. It's a method of preserving their heritage. The story of their legacy goes beyond just surviving as they see their children become experts in trapping, cooking and adapting to different seasons. In Life Below Zero, viewers got a unique glimpse into their lives, which was filled with challenges, near misses and subtle beauty, as Chip and Agnes juggled monitoring traps in the freezing cold with cooking food by the fire. There's no denying the difficulty, but this way of life isn't just a choice for them, it's a link to their heritage and identity. Obviously, there are challenges to living here. The road ahead of Chip hasn't been easy. During an inquiry in 2017, Chip got himself into a lot of problems after being found guilty of providing false statements to the Alaska State Troopers. He spent around 15 months behind bars. Although Chip did not return to his groundbreaking work until after his release in 2018, as Agnes steadied the ship for the family, bringing them safely through stormy seas. The Inupiaq chin tattoo that Agnes had when she was a young woman is one of the most noticeable features about her. It goes beyond mere ornamentation. It represents her maturity, perseverance, and cultural pride. The significance of passing on one's values and customs to one's offspring is deeply ingrained in their culture, and that tattoo is a symbol of that reverence. Chip and Agnes are still living the good life in Norvik, close to their loved ones and the property they were born and raised on. They hold fast to the natural cycles, the wisdom passed down through generations, and the unspoken connection that comes from being in close proximity to the ground, even if their environment is constantly evolving around them. Next, we'll meet a man whose life is a web of surprises and whose ties to nature are profound. Holmes, Jesse. Jesse left his humble beginnings in a little Alabama town for the great unknown, Alaska, in pursuit of an ambition few would dare to conceive. Jesse gave into a lifestyle far apart from home when he settled in the small village of Nenana. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving in the Alaskan wilderness, where he carved out a niche for himself while caring for 40 sled dogs. The events of Jesse's life on Life Below Zero have shown a potent blend of perseverance, subtle power, and an unfiltered bond with the environment. He spends his days facing the merciless cold while training dogs and constructing shelters. He has become one of the most revered and adored characters on the show, as viewers have witnessed him calmly confront problems. After that, an event occurred that put everything to the test. Jesse had a terrible mishap in late 2022 while assisting with the cleanup in Gullivan following a severe storm. His ribs, wrist and internal organs were all broken when a huge object landed on him. We were almost there. Jesse persisted in his fight even while in the hospital. The outpouring of support from the close-knit Alaskan community was overwhelming, but he ignored it all in his pursuit of recovery. Recuperation wasn't merely about getting back on his feet for Jesse. Coming back even stronger was the point. His unwavering commitment to his recuperation and training was a reflection of his admirers' admiration for him. Instinctively, he was inseparable from his pets. This connection, along with his dogged determination, propelled him to a remarkable recovery. A lot happened in 2025 for Jesse Holmes. He triumphed in the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, an arduous 128-mile traversal of the freezing tundra of Alaska. Because snow is so sparse, this race is the longest, and Jesse finished first in just over 10 days, at the top of their game as mushers. He triumphantly led his team, which included the canines Hercules and Polar, across the finish line in Nome, much to the jubilation of spectators and competitors alike. What really matters in Jesse's story is that he followed his heart into the wilderness, came dangerously close to catastrophe, and then returned to become the best at what he loved. His experience on Life Below Zero teaches us the value of perseverance and the strength of the unbreakable link between a musher and his dogs. Though not all of the cast members remain on camera, the events depicted in Life Below Zero unfold and can take unexpected turns. Routes 1, Uncharted Alaska. A few of characters from Life Below Zero spring to mind whenever one considers the untamed Alaskan environment. Andy Basich is one of them. Individually, Denise Becker and Glenn Villeneuve have shown us several facets of life away from the grid. Andy Basich, a figure who has come to represent the perseverance and resilience of the Yukon River, deserves our attention first. When it comes to Life Below Zero, Andy Basich is among the most reliable characters. Andy is very connected to the country and the dogs he takes care of from his home near Eagle, Alaska, which is situated on the banks of the Yukon River. His pace is unstoppable even at the age of 67. Andy and Denise Becker keep up the respectable lifestyle that their fans have grown to love. Managing a homestead, hunting and raising a pack of 25 sled dogs all require continual vigilance. He stands out from the rest of the cast because to his ingenuity and straightforwardness, displaying the necessities for survival in an environment where the elements dictate the rules. Denise, who he befriended on the homestead following his divorce from Kate Rourke, brought a fresh perspective to his story, underscoring themes of camaraderie and mutual resilience in the brutal Alaskan landscape. Additionally, Andy Bassick had a life-altering health scare in 2018. He severely hurt his hip while attempting to extricate a snow machine that had become trapped in heavy snow. He was on the verge of death when an infection from his wound spread to his bones and muscles. Andy had to be evacuated to Florida for treatment, since medical assistance is scarce in the woods. There, he and his partner and trauma nurse Denise Becker spent nearly 6 months getting well. His homestead had been abandoned for months when he returned to Alaska. Rebuilding his home and taking care of his sled dogs were Andy's top priorities, even when he was on crutches. Andy learned the hard way that even someone as tough as him can't escape the perils of living in the Alaskan wilderness. Additionally, it caused him to reconsider his life goals and the rate of progress he could sustain. Denise Becker's story has subtly influenced Andy's existence away from the grid. Because of Andy, Denise Becker came into the limelight. Denise was an integral part of Andy's journey, even though she left the program for health concerns. Denise loved the daily grind of caring for dogs, managing supplies, and braving the terrible Alaskan winters, despite the fact that living in such a distant and demanding environment isn't easy. Her unassuming fortitude and unwavering commitment exemplified the type of alliance that has the potential to determine the fate of an individual in the wild. She has remained completely committed to this lifestyle, even when she is not on television. Another example is Glenn Villeneuve, whose life's trajectory changed after she spent a number of years alone. Because of his strong bond to the land and his penchant for living alone, Glenn brought a special spirit to life in sub-zero temperatures. Glenn began a new journey after departing the program after season 11 as a result of creative issues. Now he and his family, wife Tricia, and their 3 kids call Fairbanks home. Even the most self-reliant individuals undergo change over time, and this transition from rural homesteader to urban family guy exemplifies that. The lesson that Glenn's narrative imparts is that subsistence farming is only one aspect of survival. It's all about being flexible and adjusting to the unexpected, and that sometimes necessitates choosing company over isolation. Yet, the protagonists aren't the last characters in the novel. The stakes have been far higher on the other side of this Alaskan world, sub-zero existence. Port security. If Life Below Zero revealed the harsh beauty of wilderness survival in Alaska, then Port Protection dug even farther into the reality of off-grid life. This isn't just a spin-off, it's an integral element of the same cosmos, woven with the same frosty fabric. The 2015 debut of Port Protection followed a tight-knit community on Prince of Wales Island as they weathered a harsh winter. Everything is dependent on water, the weather, and sheer determination. There are no highways, supermarkets, or safety nets. The link became quite apparent in 2020 when the show was formally renamed as Life Below Zero Port Protection. It goes beyond just branding though. Produced by the same Emmy-winning team, both series feature the same distinctive documentary approach. The haunting stillness of the Alaskan wilderness, accompanied with wide-angle drone views and close-ups of rough hands. The sharing of stories, however, is what truly unites them. Defeating the elements is the focus of Living Below Zero, whilst constructing a living within them is the focus of Port Protection. The residents of Port Protection felt a connection to the main cast of Life Below Zero, even though they were never shown on camera crossing paths. Anyone who was captivated by Sue Aiken's braving grizzlies could not tear themselves away from Port Protection, where they witnessed a house being constructed from driftwood or a salmon being caught with just one's bare hands. Different lives, same determination. That was more like it. Despite the survival of the primary cast of Life Below Zero, the extended family is confronted with more difficult realities, particularly in Port Protection, where actual and unscripted endings to lives occur. Gary Muehlberger, the embodiment of unbridled freedom, must be mentioned first. Gary lacked ostentation. He made no attempt to be the centre of attention or to wow the film crew. What truly set him apart, though, was the ease with which he subsisted only from his environment. Gary had lived in port protection his whole life. He was a master fisherman, could mend a boat out of scrap metal, and treated his neighbours like family. From the minute he appeared on film, it was clear that he had lived the role. The year 2021 was marred by tragedy. Firefighters discovered human remains inside Gary's burning home. As the blades subsided, the news spread quickly. Gary had perished in the blaze. The man's age was 75. Viewers had a sense of intimacy. In the comment sections, fans expressed their condolences and shared memories. Online, Nat Geo paid tribute to him, praising him as a legend. Even though they had never met, people around the globe grieved for a guy they had known in spirit, for the simple reason that court protection revolved around Gary and not any other figure. Then there was Lizzie Botello, a woman whose unassuming power left an indelible impression. Lizzie was the creative force and heartbeat, while Gary was the handyman. She brought an uncommon tenderness and an innate strength to the screen. Lizzie carved out a space in the show that was wild and full of grace. She is a superb sculptor and a master at surviving off the water. She chose to remain entrenched in that remote part of Alaska, create and give, even after she lost both of her sons. Lizzie battled illness for 62 years before her death in June 2021. Her passing was understated, not much was made of it, but that was a huge deal for the fans. Her humour, spirit and the way she made Alaska her home were remembered in the outpouring of comments. She was powerful without being overly boisterous. No proof was ever required of her. There weren't any surprises here. They had lives of their own and were tragically taken from us too soon. You may still sense their presence in that particular region of Alaska. Is going off the grid a heroic act, or just a desperate measure presented in a positive light for the sake of appearances? Post your opinions in the space provided. In addition, please subscribe, like and share the video. Click the video that appears next on your screen to see more videos like this.